It's the morning of the 10-meter contest. I'm got all my antennas ready to go. This is my number one dipole. It's a fan dipole for 20 and 10 meters. It's broadside on northeast. It does have a deep null off the ends like most dipoles do. And this dipole is my latest, dipole number 3. Put it up for east-west. It's about 32 feet above the ground. And it should give me complete coverage of the west coast and midwest of the United States. And it fills in a gap between my number 1 and my number 2 dipole. The number 2 dipole is a north-south, broadside north-south. And the number 3 dipole is broadside east-west. The number 1 dipole, I'll try to get a better view of it in a minute. The number 1 dipole is broadside northeast, southwest. And this is a little bit better view of my 20 10-meter dipole. It's at 39 feet above the ground. And again, there's the east-west dipole. It's 32 feet above the ground. Now this is what I call the number 2 dipole. It is about 46 feet above the ground, or 46 feet to the center. It's drooping a little bit because I didn't want to pull it too tight between the trees. It is broadside directly north and south. You know, when I put it up as my second 10-meter dipole, it made a big difference into South America, or at least into the Brazil or eastern half of South America. Big difference on signal strengths when I switch between the northeast southwest dipole and the north-south dipole. And of course this year I've added the 3rd dipole to cover east-west. So I don't have any nulls on 10 meters. So rotating the switch from among the 3 dipoles is just like swinging a Yagi around. And I have had some Yagis. One of my biggest Yagis was a 6-element 10-meter Yagi. And it did take a while to swing it around. So in a contest, it was a little bit slow. But switching from 3 dipoles, I've got every direction covered quite well. Now, I don't have enough switch boxes. This remote switch switches between 4 antennas. So I've got my 160 antenna, and I've got my 2010 fan dipole, and I've got my north-south 10-meter antenna, and I've got the 4th position running over to another switch. In this case, it's a manual switch. Here we go. I've got a supposedly temporary manual switch here where I can switch between the 40-meter dipole and the 10-meter east-west dipole. So right now it's on 40 meters. And I'm going to throw the switch for the contest. So now I've got all 3 10-meter dipoles patched in one way or another to the shack. And with remote switch inside the shack, I can go click, click, click and pick the best antenna for whoever's calling me or whoever I'm trying to work. Now I'm going to take advantage of the reverse beacon network to check on the 10-meter propagation. It's about 10:30 in the morning, the day of the 10-meter contest. Contest starts tonight at 7 o'clock. And we we have the K3 set on 2854. Okay, we got some spots. We've got some over in England, V6, local WB6BEE, TI7W, KO7SS, and K2PO/7. Ooh, Spain, EA5, an N6 portable 7, a K5, a ZF1 in the Caymans, PJ2A. So we're being heard pretty good on 10 meters right now. I changed frequency, so the reverse beacon network will pick me up. Okay, we already got some spots coming in. The ones that are highlighted are the latest. So we, with that antenna, MM0, W6, F8, EA8, VE6, K5TR. Now I can come in here and see which stations heard me with each antenna, and I can also get a comparison. Like, all right, here's the, whoops. I can highlight the EA8. I got a 23, whoops, they're still coming in. The EA8 shows it's 16 dB on one antenna. Well, he didn't hear me on both antennas. All right, the N6 portable 7. He heard me with 14 dB on the east-west antenna, and he should not have heard me as loud on the northeast-southwest antenna, and he didn't. There's a difference of about 3 dB on his signal. The ZF shows it 24 dB on the northeast-southwest antenna, and when he's off the ends of the east-west antenna, he's only 8 dB. So there's a big difference, 16 dB difference in the ZF just between those two antennas. All right, let's see what we got here. They're coming in fast. Let's look at PJ2A. All right, PJ2A has me at 15 dB on the north-south antenna. On the east-west antenna, it was 5 dB. So we're looking at 10 dB difference between the south-facing antenna and the west-facing antenna. So those two antennas are at right angles to one another, and that's going to give you the most difference off the end. So it looks like there's a good 10 dB difference on PJ2A. The TI7 in Costa Rica is 30 dB on the south-facing antenna. And let's see if he's... well, he wasn't even heard on any of the antennas, I don't think. Let me double check here. I'm going to add a few more line items here. Yep, okay. TI7W. He was not heard on the east-west antenna at all. So he didn't hear me on the east-west antenna at all. On the north-south antenna, it was 30 dB. So it went from he didn't hear me to 30 dB. Now on the other antenna, the northeast-southwest antenna, it was 26 dB. Now he is not too bad off the southwest antenna. So I expected to get him pretty well on the southwest antenna, but not as well on the east-west antenna. In fact, east-west is no good for South America. So I'll study these plots a little bit more, but basically I know which antenna to use for which direction in which part of the world, and the RBN is one way to check and see how well they're doing. The best way is to find a beacon and tune in a beacon that's going to be there for a while, and just switch between antennas while you're listening to one beacon, and then you can really see the difference. QSB makes a difference. The signal's always fading up and down, so if you just happen to get an RBN spot during a fade, it's going to look like the antenna's not working as well as it really is. So the beacons really help me a lot. Okay, there's a beacon here in Spain. That's the northeast antenna. He came up. So I'm switching between northeast, east-west, and north-south. So let's go with the east antenna, and we'll compare east to northeast. All right, this is Spain. East, northeast. So he came up on the northeast. Let's go to the north-south. All right, I went from north-south to northeast-southwest. And there was a significant improvement there also. So the northeast antenna definitely wins on a station in Southern Europe. This is my plot of the three antennas. And I know where the coverage is the best. Like with the north-south antenna, I've highlighted in black where it's going to be better than the other two antennas. With the east-west antenna, I have it outlined in green where it's going to be better. And with the northeast antenna, it's in red. And you can see where these plots cross, like right there and right there, the signal strength should be equivalent. Switching back and forth from one to the other should not make any difference. And so there's several points here where it's not going to make any difference which antenna I've got. But when I'm like looking into Africa, the east antenna is 90 degrees. It's going to be a big difference. It's going to be maybe 5 dB difference. And when you get over here to 120, 115 degrees, you can see that neither one of those, I'm in the kind of in a null of both of those antennas. So there's going to be a big difference when I go from either one of those antennas to the east antenna. Same thing happens over to the west. There are certain directions that the north-south and northeast-southwest antenna is not going to cover very well, but the west antenna makes up for it. And obviously, for the 10-meter contest, I'm hoping to work a bunch of stations in the United States, West Coast, So that third antenna I put up facing the west is definitely going to cover most of the United States in the 10-meter contest. And looking to South America, the south antenna and the northeast southwest antenna, they kind of merge there. And all right, the east-west, northeast, southwest. They're not so good for South America, but boy, the north-south antenna, the one I have marked in black, it really shows itself in most of South America. So we're ready for the 10-meter contest. These are my 3 dipoles for 2022.